Hey guys, welcome to the Paint with Lovejoy website. This is the place for first-time and beginners to get comfortable with the painting process. If you have never painted, I am definitely the teacher for you. I will give you permission to play, to create with your hands, and I do consider this adult kindergarten, where you get to make memories with yourself or with loved ones. And you will notice that creative time is something that you will reference for the rest of your life. I do encourage you to send me photos of your paintings. And when you're done with my YouTube videos, please check out my Paint Your Pet course for even more in-depth and kind of my signature class. It's a lot of fun. Before we get started, I want to say thank you for being you. And I also want to give you permission to play today. I'm going to encourage that you take a lot of progress photos, and I do recommend that you turn off your distractions. Put your phone on mute. Please know that mistakes will happen. We call them happy accidents. And I'm going to encourage you to breathe throughout the painting process. Here are your recommended supplies and the colors for this particular video. This video also has a traceable, a line drawing at the beginning, and you can either purchase the traceable and transfer, or you could pause the video and draw it freehand, whichever you feel comfortable doing. Again, progress photos are important. And I'm going to encourage that you pause and play the video as much as you need and rewatch anything that you want. Now let's go ahead and get started painting. All right, guys, so take your progress photo and then we're going to move into the background. And I'm using a medium or large flat brush and doing a mixture of white and yellow. And with today's painting on the background, because we're pretty much going to use white and yellow, I want you to kind of play with what I'm just doing right now. And that was throwing a bunch of color, some of the white on there, then we'll throw some yellow. Don't feel like you have to mix your shade thoroughly on your plates. Slap some of those direct yellow and white on your canvas and then mix them directly on your canvas, just to kind of give you a different option for how you can mix and blend paint. And again, totally okay to play with your color variation. Now, feel free, you can switch to a smaller brush as you're going around the petals. But even if you're using the larger brush, totally okay. But like I said, feel free to switch brushes as needed. And here, grabbing that yellow and white again, not thoroughly mixing, so that way I can mix directly on the canvas and filling in that space. I recommend it is okay to paint a little sloppier today, and I want you to just have fun. Now, I want you to take a deep breath right now. You may not realize it, but you could be holding your breath. Relax, shake out your hands. This is just a fun painting process. You have many other areas in your life that are stressful and you have to be perfect. This is not one of those places. We do not have to be perfect today. I want you to just have fun, permission to get sloppy and messy. And having a place where you can get sloppy and messy goes a long way, especially when you do have so many other areas of your life that are controlled. All right, so here you can see where I just slapped some of that direct yellow onto the background, and I'm mixing it with the brush directly on canvas and blending that darker yellow into the light. And if you happen to do what I just did right there, where a little bit of green got on my brush, embrace it and just kind of blend it in. If it's a color that you can't avoid, take a paper towel, wipe it off, and then go back and reapply the appropriate color. We do call these happy accidents. So don't stress if you get the wrong color or you overlap the traceable. Again, this is just for fun. I apologize in advance for the autofocus. I did not set the lock when I filmed this series, but I've made sure that I've set the autofocus lock on my subsequent videos. So take a progress photo, do everything that you want to your background now, and then we're going to move into the petals and a lot of brush control. So you'll be using your pointy brush, and sometimes I like to use two brushes. So feel free if you want to do that, you can do multiple brushes. And we're literally going to go a couple petals at a time. And we're going to recreate our formula. So right now I've got a orange and red mixture using the pointy brush. And this is going to be our darker shadow value. So all the little petals that are behind the main front petals, we're going to put this darker red orange on there. You do have full permission if you want to do a purple flower, a green flower, pink, whatever you want to do, you can switch out your colors and then just kind of go with the different shades. And we're looking for a dark, medium, and light shade. All right, and remember to breathe. These are tiny little spaces. Take your time. We are not in a rush. I want you to really focus on your brush control, your muscle movement, taking your time, breathing while you paint, and again, just enjoying the process. If you happen to go outside the lines, again, totally okay. Embrace where you're at for today's painting. And sometimes it's really nice just for our brains to slow down, almost like coloring book style, and fill in the spaces. But again, I want you to just have fun. I have a feeling you're already pretty stressed in other areas of your life. So enjoy this process. You're doing a great job. Again, if you're feeling like your brush is shaky as you're working in these tiny spaces, exhale as you touch the brush to the canvas, and that will help steady out your hand. So take a progress photo. You're going to clean the brush, and we're going to move right along. All right, so now we're going to use orange paint, and we're going to be doing the petals that are in front of the ones we just did. And what we're going to do with this painting, because I am using student grade paint, I'm going to paint all the front petals orange, do the other areas, and get the first layer down. And then we'll come back and do the petals a second time with shading. So again, right now you're using your color of choice, which is right now for the video, orange. And we're going to fill in all the remaining petals. Now I want you to take your time. This is not a race. I want you to start getting comfortable with the pressure of your brush, the control of your brush. If you're shaky as you're doing this, because we are working in smaller, tighter spaces, exhale as you touch the brush to the canvas, and that will help your process. And I do recommend going petal by petal. That way you're just getting more control and muscle memory as you handle the brush. And this is part of my philosophy of, the more that you paint, the more comfortable that you get. And it's really training your muscles to hold the brush, training your muscles with the pressure, realizing what the different pressures when you're using the brush, what that affects, what type of mark making that is. So every time that you paint, your brain's taking in a lot of information. And then the next time that you paint, it's making sense of that information that you just absorbed. And then it's also adding to with the new comfort level that you have or the new challenge that you've placed in front of yourself with painting. So again, very, very, very healthy to have creative outlets in your life. So thanks for taking time out of your day to hang out with me and get creative. All right, and this is already taking shape nicely. We will do the center of the flower and the stem and get every space of the canvas covered, and that's called the underpainting. And then we'll do round 2 and more layers on top of it. And with the transparency of my paint, you can see the brush strokes showing up. That second round gives more opaque coverage. So take your progress photo. We're going to move into the center. So it's going to be orange with raw sienna. There we go, grabbing a chunk, making a new pile on the plate, and about a 1-to-1 ratio. Doesn't have to be perfect. We are leaning a little bit more towards the brown just because these flowers usually have a darker center. All right, and creating almost a little donut there. Gonna clean the brush really good and move into our next color. All right, so grabbing a little bit of yellow green, gonna move into that stem. You can use the direct green, you can do a yellow green, you can make this the shade of your choice. Again, play with that pressure, Exhale as your brush touches the canvas. Take your time. You do not have to finish this video or this painting in one sitting. So we're going a little bit darker. So that was red with a little bit of green. It actually makes a really kind of pretty color. Um, there we go, a little more green, going a little bit darker for the center of the flower. Excellent. So at this point, you should have zero canvas space showing on your canvas. Take your progress photo. I want you to take a break, let this painting dry. I'm going to talk about my Paint Your Pet class, and then we'll pick up the painting at the end of my little ad here. But take your time, let it dry, look at your painting from across the room, maybe get something to eat, and then check out my Paint Your Pet course here. This is my favorite class that I teach. I've been teaching it for about 15 years. I will not make you paint as fast as the video on the screen, but I will teach you the realistic style and even a pop art style. So the Paint Your Pet course, this is my favorite spot. All those happy animals. Look at what an awesome job all my students did in creating a likeness of their pet. And again, you get a pop art or realistic option. You learn so much more and you put so much more into it when you paint something that you love. And again, if you've never painted, I am a great teacher to start with, and I make it really easy. I have in-person classes in a couple locations, and then I also teach online. Both options are very easy and logical steps to follow. You can paint your pet or your favorite animal, just no humans. You will impress yourself and your pet. It's a lot of fun. So check out the Paint Your Pet course when you're done with my YouTube videos and other videos. So let's jump back into your painting. I want you to look at it from across the room. Notice how you feel. Notice how it looks different from across the room. And now we're going to move into the second layer. Because we didn't do shading on the first layer, even if you have opaque paint, I'm going to recommend that you still do this second layer. We're going to do shading. So we're going back to the orange and red combo. There we go. And doing just one more layer on those back petals. Again, you'll see just how much that second layer gives it more of that opaque feel. And then we'll move into the foreground, the front petals, and we'll do a little bit of shading with the orange, a darker color, then a lighter color. Again, take your time. It's not a race. If you need to turn your canvas sideways or upside down just because it's easier to fill in that particular space, please feel free to do that. Nice, and already I do love it when the second layer gets on there. It's just such a richer, solid, creamier color. So great job. All right, so now take your progress photo. Then we're going to move into those front petals, and I'm going to work maybe 4 or 5 petals at the same time. And then we'll move on to the next batch of petals. So again, do a couple petals at a time and then move on to the next one. So we're starting with the orange, still using the pointy brush, placing that orange base color on there. Then we're going to introduce a darker color and then a lighter color. And because we're putting this base color on here, we're going to be able to blend these other future colors into the wet paint, just like blending the colors into your background. All right. I think I got one more petal and then we'll move into our shadow element on here. Again, remember to breathe. Exhale as you touch the brush to the canvas. Take your time. Enjoy the process. All right. So it looks like I've got about 5 petals on there. Now I'm going to grab some direct red, light pressure, and placing this red kind of where the petals overlap. And then I'm going to wipe off the brush, and then with light pressure, I can kind of blend softly that darker red into the orange. So again, wiping off that brush, light pressure. And even on this, exhale as you're touching the brush to the canvas. If you need to, rest your forearm against the edge of the table. You can even put your pinky out and put that somewhere and use that as your pivot point. But again, take your time. Now, if you need to see what I'm doing, obviously pause the video as much as you need. but you can also take a screenshot and then zoom in closer. And I highly recommend doing that since we have so many tiny little petals here. And I want you to observe where I place some of the shades and then mimic that to the best of your ability. Here we're doing the opposite. I'm taking some yellow, literally going on the opposite side of where I placed the shadow element and placing the yellow. And same thing, I'm placing that color on there. I'm going to wipe off the excess paint of the brush and then go back with light pressure and slowly pull, barely pull that yellow into the orange. You will notice that the yellow will get eaten up very, very quickly in the orange. So be small and controlled with these brush strokes. If you end up moving your brush too much and you lose that yellow, just reapply the yellow again. And then again with that small controlled area or controlled movements, blend that yellow back in. So, and that's kind of what I'm doing right here. I lost a little bit of the yellow, so applying more. And even if you go back and forth, you'll see how much just that little hint of yellow gives an illusion of depth on those petals. So now moving into the next batch, back to the orange, putting the base color on, and then we'll move to the red and into the yellow. We'll recreate this about 3 times as we move along to all the petals on this flower. Again, take your time. The skills that you are learning in this painting, where we're doing a dark, medium, and light shade. The orange right now is the medium shade. The red is the dark shade, and then the yellow is the highlight, the light shade. By using 3 shades, this is how we create an illusion of depth on a flat 2D surface. So these are skills that you can take into your next painting. You can take into something else creative to help create that 3D illusion. So here on the batch, I'm actually doing back to the red, placing it where I want it, wiping off the brush, and then with light pressure, slightly softening the line between the red and the orange. Again, exhale as you touch the brush to the canvas and take your time. It's already a great contrast between the petals that we've worked on and then the first layer of petals. So now moving into the yellow, the opposite side of your shadow element, the opposite side of where you put the red. And again, pretty cool how much that makes it pop. Wipe off that brush and light pressure where the 2 colors meet, soften that line. All right, moving into the last couple of petals, recreating the exact same formula. So pointy brush, orange paint, go ahead and fill in those last 5 or 6 petals. Then we'll do the red, then we'll do the yellow. I highly recommend that maybe in a couple of months or after 4 or 5 paintings, redo this painting, paint it a second time. And when you paint it a second time, I want you to recognize how much easier it might be, how much your brush control has improved from the last time, and just how much further along your creative path you are. We need some of those aha moments, and redoing a painting that you did in the past is a good way to do that. So now pointy brush, red paint, placing them kind of where the petals overlap. And again, if you need to see closer, pause the video, take a screenshot, and zoom in. Nice. If at any point while you're doing this that you're finding that you're getting sloppy and a little too messy, pause the video, take a break, go eat something, and then come back to it. You do not have to finish this in one sitting. Please make sure you come back to the painting. Don't just halfway paint it and never come back to it. So now I'm moving those last little bits of yellow on there and then wiping the brush off and softening that transition line. Excellent job today. Look at the depth and the tight, small spaces that you were working in. Doing great. So now we're going to put a second layer on that stem. So going back to that red and green mixture. Oh, I'm sorry, not the stem, the center of the flower. Totally got ahead of myself there. I'm human. All right, so filling in that dark center with the red and green mixture, cleaning the brush, and then moving on to the next one. All right, now we're going to the stem. Like I said, I got a little ahead of myself. So yellow and green of your choosing, to your shade, your liking. And just again, putting that second layer on there for better coverage. Please remember to again look at your painting from a distance and then also look at your painting on your phone after you take your next progress shot. All right, taking that green, putting a little bit of a shadow element on the stem. Again, going on that right-hand side, and then we can put a little bit of yellow on the left-hand side. All right, so for this, we're gonna go back to that red and raw sienna mixture, and we're gonna do a bit of a tapping method. There we go. So I am holding that brush perpendicular. I'm using the medium flat brush and almost doing a tapping to create a bit of a texture, overlapping the petals just a tiny amount, and then maybe overlapping that center just a tiny amount. And again, it's holding your brush perpendicular to the canvas, tapping it, but I also recommend moving the brush a little bit in between your fingers so that way it's not the exact same mark each time. Now you're going to grab some yellow. There we go. Same application with this tapping method and getting a highlight on there. And because the first color is still wet, as you add the yellow and tap into it, it is going to blend and diffuse a little bit. You'll see that. There we go. As soon as I move my hand. Nice. But getting that last highlight on there. And that actually brings us to the conclusion of today's painting. So excellent job. Take your last progress photo and wonderful job today. This was really tight and controlled, and you will see what you've learned today show up in your future paintings. So thanks for painting. Please send me pictures of what you paint. You can tag me on social media or send me an email. And then check out my Paint Your Pet course when you're ready. And again, thank you for painting. Until next time, cheers.